Hey, what's up, YouTube? My name is Apex, and today I want to talk about Titanfall. And what I really want to talk about is how the gameplay is in Titanfall, and whether or not I really think I will continue to play this game for a long period of time. So, what I mean by this is Titanfall has very fun core gameplay, however, it's severely lacking in content. And my first example of this would be the primary weapons. The fact that there's only 10 primary weapons in a AAA first person shooter seems a bit ridiculous. I mean, yes, there are advantages in the fact that you'll have generally better balancing between weapons because they'll be able to spend more time on a fewer number of weapons rather than having to balance, 20 different weapons for all these different scenarios. However, even with only 10 primary weapons, there are some clear advantages to using some weapons over others in every scenario. Now, the best example I can think of would be the R101C carbine. And it kind of feels like they took a chapter out of DICE's book, and they kind of created the M16 of Titanfall. And what I mean by that is the fact that this weapon excels in every situation in the game. It's not the best in any situation, but it is going to be able to be the most consistent weapon through all scenarios in this game. Now, this is something that I talked about more in depth in my carbine review. However, I just wanted to point that out in the fact that they're really, even though there's such a few number of weapons, they still haven't perfectly balanced them, which is something that you should at least expect when there's only 10 primary weapons. Furthermore, when it comes to the weapon attachments, there's very few attachments, which is the thing that really gives you something to play for when you're playing the game. Because once you get your favorite gun, then that's when you want to go. All right, now I'm just going to work on getting all my attachments so I can make this weapon perform the exact way I want to that complements my gameplay. However, when it comes to attachments, I mean, there's generally about 3 attachments when it comes to the actual performance of the gun, and then there's 3 to 4 sights for a weapon. Usually. Sometimes there's actually only 1. And this to me is just ridiculous because, especially with the attachments, there are clear winners when it comes to attachments. Like the suppressor, for example. The suppressor its only advantage is the fact that you stay off the minimap, and it also has a disadvantage of decreasing the damage of your weapon. When you compare that to something like the extended mag has no disadvantage. All it does is increase the number of rounds you have in one magazine. Now, yes, some people would say, but then they can see you on the map. But I'm comparing this to a naked rifle rather than comparing one attachment to the next. So another thing that has to be improved upon in Titanfall is the fact that there is literally no pilot customization in this game. And that's something that adds a lot of depth to the game and also allows the player to continually work towards something and give them a sense of accomplishment. Because once you unlock all the weapons and the attachments, what's the next thing you're going to work for? It's not going to be prestige. Prestiging, I mean, although it does add a bit more longevity to the gameplay, it gets very repetitive when you realize that you're just doing the same thing over again for a little tag next to your name. Most players want to play towards something that you can visually see, and you can see makes a difference on the battlefield between you and other players. This is an example in Battlefield 4, where they have all these different types of camos and weapon customizations and different dog tags and things like that that allow the player to feel unique when playing the game. Now, I'm not sure if Respawn is planning on adding more of the customization content in future DLCs and patches, but if they don't, I definitely don't see myself playing this game for an extended period of time, because that's one of the main things that really gets me to play these games, because I don't really believe in things like prestiging, because that's just, I mean, you're literally just restarting all the work that you put into unlocking weapons and attachments because you want a number next to your name. And I don't really think that's a legitimate way of adding longevity to a game. Now, while we're still on the topic of weapons, another thing I don't like is the fact that there are no weapons that really bring anything new to the table other than the smart pistol. And also, the smart pistol for some people is very annoying, and it seems like a cheap way to play the game because it takes the aiming aspect out of a first-person shooter. Now, I don't agree with that point of view because I believe that instead of putting all your effort into aiming, it kind of makes you focus more on positioning and stealth in order to get kills. But that's not the point. The point is the fact that the Smart Pistol is the only real unique weapon in the game. And although it's fun to use every now and then, that itself will get repetitive as well. And other than that, all the other weapons, I mean, you just have a generic LMG, a generic carbine, and generic SMGs, and none of them really do anything special to make you think, well, this is definitely a new layer to a first-person shooter. So all this leads me into my next point, which is the Titan combat. Now, this is obviously one of the main things that is supposed to draw people to this game and give you something new to try out in a first-person shooter. Now, although the Titans are very fun to play with and they're a new twist to first-person shooters, it's another thing that will begin to get stale rather quickly because all it really feels like after a while is you're playing a an infantry that is less mobile than the ones that you're playing with regularly in the game, like the pilots. Um, and they're cool, and they have some fun abilities to use and things like that. You can get some
Just
pretty cool kills
29%
with.
health, really.
But again, it's lacking in content. There's only 6 primary weapons for Titans, and some of these weapons are just obviously better than other weapons, and there's no point of using some of these weapons, which narrows it down even more in the way of content for Titans. Now, don't get me wrong. I love the Titan combat in Titanfall. I think it adds a whole new layer to the game, and it's a very interesting aspect of Titanfall. But I definitely think they need to start adding some more content in the way of weapons and abilities for Titans, and even more Titans, because there are there's only 3 Titans in the game, and although they do have a few differences between them, they play out basically the same, other than the fact that one has more dashes than the other, or one has slightly more armor than the other. But basically, they're the same thing with very small differences. And also, I mean, there's weapons that these Titans use that are just obviously better. My favorite weapon as a Titan pilot would be the 40 millimeter cannon. And in my opinion, this is the best Titan weapon, hands down. I don't think there's anything that can beat the 40 millimeter cannon at long range. And even in close quarters, the 40 millimeter cannon can deal tons of damage. And there's no other weapon that can really do what the 40 millimeter cannon can do. Now, I don't really want to feel like I'm just totally ragging on Titanfall because I really
Turn a
do like
fag
Titanfall.
pistol.
I think it's got a great gameplay. And I think one of the best things they did was add this free running aspect to Titanfall because, in my opinion, it is the most interesting part of Titanfall. I care more about the free running than I do about the Titans. And the reason for this is because the free running adds a level of randomness to the gameplay that allows for players to get some really cool kills and pull off some crazy stunts and get into some ridiculous situations that you wouldn't get into with other games that don't have free running. And this is a great thing. I don't think they have to really add anything in the way of free running. I think they hit the nail right on the head with the free running in this game, and I don't think they have to change anything about it. That is definitely a great aspect of the game. Now, another thing we have to touch on is map design. Now, the map design in Titanfall is fantastic, in my opinion. I think they did a great job on um, really controlling and balancing the flow of combat when it comes to Titans and pilots fighting in the same area, as well as giving you some really cool and interesting routes to get around with as a free running pilot. However, there is no real dynamic aspect to these maps. Um, there's no destruction because I'm assuming because it's on the source engine and they didn't really want to push it that way because they've already pushed, in my opinion, the most graphical capabilities they can out of the engine, seeing that it's an older engine. Um, but the only dynamic aspect to these maps is the heavy turret, which is only seen on I think 2 or 3 maps out of the whole game. And really, all the heavy turret is a static object that can be a bit of a nuisance if somebody hacks into it and it begins shooting at you. Now, I think destruction and dynamic map design is something that developers have really caught on to and realized that it's a very important aspect of a game nowadays when it comes to first-person shooters, because that's one of the
Oh
things
god,
that
that was
provides new situations and allows the game to play differently from beginning to end. rather than having the same gameplay all the way throughout the game. This can be seen in even the new Call of Duty, which began to add some new dynamic events and some destructibility, or also in Battlefield, which is probably the prime example because it's got one of the best destruction engines in the market right now and also has a lot of dynamic events that occur during multiplayer gameplay. So this brings me to what they can do to fix these flaws and add longevity to a game that currently seems like a one-trick pony. And the solution is simple: add more content and customization. What I would like to see is the developers not worry about adding new maps and just focus on weapons and attachments and customizations. Respawn really does have a great game, and if they're going to stick with the map design of no dynamic events and no destructibility, then what they really need to do is add in the customization to pilots and weapons, because Respawn really does have a great game, and I think once they address these issues, this game will definitely be around for years to come. But that's all for this one, guys. Let me know what you guys think about the things that I have stated in this video, and tell me if there's anything that I missed or that could actually improve the game. That's it, guys. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.